Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Computer Wednesday, we're going to talk about AMD 9000 series, CALM series. So let's dive deep into it. So what exactly we are talking about? We are talking about here Zen 5 architecture. Now AMD basically was in a ditch known as Bulldozer, and unfortunately I had that CPU. It was not good. Not good. It worked, but it was like, I did not knew better. That's why I have it. But after that, they had to do drastic change. So they jumped into a new architecture that we called Zen. Now, Zen was not itself just like, okay, it's a new thing. It was more of a pipeline. They're like, okay, now we're going to take this and amplify the pipeline. So Zen 1 was a release. It was on 14 nanometers. And let's call it 1x. Now, then they released Zen 2, polishing that puppy, and then they reduced the node size to 7 nanometer, and they got 15% instruction per clock boost. Then they released basically AMD 5000 with Zen 3. Now 7 nanometer. Now it had 19% uplift from the core point. Now here's the deal. AMD Ryzen 5000 was the biggest wow moment in AMD for a long time. Why? This is the time where Intel was no longer able to say we are the rich people one. Before that, there was almost a stigma attached to AMD where it's like it's for poor people or like who cannot afford Intel, because again Intel was that performant. By AMD Ryzen 5000. Now Zen 1 was like okay. Zen 2, which was AMD Ryzen 3000, it was actually good in multitasking, not in gaming. So there was still a stigma there. It's like, okay, it's for poor people. But Ryzen 5000 was the first time where it's like, yeah, you can buy Intel, but it does not have the performance. That was the first time. At that point of launch, there was nothing in Intel that you can compete, like flat out. Like flat out. So that was the biggest win they ever got. Was like, whoa. Like, whoa. Then they released AMD Ryzen 7000. Now it also calls 8000 because for their laptop they smoked weed and they renamed it. So laptop series is 8000. So it's still Zen 4. Now Zen 4 was not that big of a jump from like that industry changing, because they were already at the top, and Intel was like overcooking their CPUs to catch up. Basically, they went from barely consuming 100 watt to 200 to 600 watts of power. I'm not even joking. There were some overclock cores that actually required 600 watts of power. So they improved the efficiency. Basically, it was not a very big jump, but it was good enough polish and good enough jump from DDR4 to DDR5. And they took a big jump where they're like, no, we are not gonna half support it. Like Intel did that. They were like, okay, some of their CPU you can have a DDR4 and DDR5. You can choose basically on your motherboard, same processor. Here it was like, no, they basically flat out. DDR4 was still here, and now DDR5, no go back in. So they did that. Now what we are talking about today is Zen 5, AMD Ryzen 9000. This puppy basically. So it has been debuted in AM5 socket. Thankfully, it's exactly the same socket used for Ryzen 7000. Ryzen 7000 needed that because, again, they upgraded the PCI lanes, they upgraded the RAM specifically going from DDR4 to DDR5. So they needed to remodel the CPU socket. And as of now, when I'm making this video, they have claimed, this is 2024, they have claimed they will support AM5 socket till 2028. So we still have 4 years left. That means at least 2 launches are still remaining. I have AMD 7000, meaning I can choose to go into 9000, 10,000 and 11,000. Hopefully. So what are the offerings? Right now they have 4 offerings. They may release few more, mostly X3D variant. Basically the cache would be turbocharged for gaming performance, but for most people it's not a very big deal. And for people who want to do task like actual work and side gaming, this is more than good enough. So they have 9950X, which is 16 core puppy. Then you have 9900X, that is 12 core. I have this one. Basically I have 7900. Basically 12 core SKU. So 12 core SKU, and they have 9700, which has 8 core SKU, and 9600, that is 6 core SKU. So they are offering this many things as of now, and all of them have inbuilt graphics. You have to understand that before this, even in AMD Bulldozer era, they had the idea, is like if you are buying a flagship processor, yes, AMD thought it was flagship of their time. So the idea was that if you have that, you're gonna buy a graphics card, which made sense, but it did not make sense for office workers. So that kind of chopped half of their market, where it's like, yeah, you cannot sell this. And again, right now I'm facing this issue. While that computer was there using as a main computer, I had a GTX 1070 So everything cool, fine. Now I want to make it into a NAS. I cannot do that. Like I have to replace that brutally powerful graphics card with something low power. So that's a very big hassle. If it had onboard graphics, I would have problem solved. Intel always had that, and that's why they are so successful in office space. You do not need graphics. But from AMD Ryzen 7000, they have made it like, okay, now all that is like, okay, we have to respun up a whole new motherboard pipeline for DDR5 PCI 5.05. Might as well add this. So from now onwards, basically AMD 7000, AMD 8000, Ryzen 9000, all of them have inbuilt GPU. Again, it's not like whoa, but it's more than good enough for actually getting the work done, especially for office setting done. And old gaming, people are playing CSGO on it, not very like 120 frame per second, but good enough, especially in HD resolution. So it has that. And the core focus here is going from Zen 4 to Zen 5 is not the uplift, it's the power efficiency. Now, does that matter? Again, for some people, shut up, take money. For other people, who cares? So, but that's the main jump that I can give you a side-by-side sample size, and you will be able to tell simply because of the energy consumption. And it has much bigger cache, like they improve the cache. You have to understand from CPU's point of view, RAM is slow, like very slow. It is far. It has to go there because again, photons are not the convective medium. Electron is, so electron is slow. It takes time to go, then it times to fetch, then bring it back. So it's very slow. So they have cache memory. Now, cache is a dual-edged sword. If you're like, what if we have GG amounts of cache? Awesome. But here's the deal. How do you fill up the cache? Again, RAM is there, but how do you fill it up? Because RAM is slower. So you have to be very mindful what you fill into the cache. If you do it right, it improves your power. If you do it wrong, it will backfire. So cache is one of those things that people are like, let's be very thorough. Let's be very thorough. That's why we generally do not put huge cache on them. So what AMD have been doing from Zen 2 is they have been making really good progress with their cache algorithms, basically what files to put into cache. And by Zen 3, they were good. By Zen 7, good. And Zen 9, they're like, Zen 5, they are like, okay, we can do double branch prediction. And if we have to make a mistake, because again, prediction is a prediction, you can make a mistake, the U-turn will be almost no cost. Basically, U-turn is no penalty, and directly going, you are exponentially faster. So they are making sure that low, the 1% lows is not low enough, and the highs are ludicrously high. So that's what they are doing. These are the two core things they are offering. At least on paper, they are claiming the IPC uplift, but people have not noticed that on Windows yet. So this is AMD 9000. So there was a huge debacle when this was launched, and that's why there is not much interest in talk about this, simply because it was overpromise and under-deliver. And I have no idea why AMD is not learning this. Like, you do not want to do this. One or two times, okay, things happen, but every launch is becoming like this. So they overpromised this. Basically, this is from Zen 4. So basically, they are directly comparing AMD Ryzen 7000 to AMD Ryzen 9000, and they are saying you're going to get this sort of, boost. Ain't nobody get time for that. This is not realistic. Like, this sort of jump only happens once in a while. Like, if you are making 10 generations of CPU, only 1 or 2 CPU jumps would be this huge. You cannot have that year over year over year. It's not iPhone. So this sort of jump was not there. Flat out, this is a lie. So they promised this. Nobody got this. So overpromise, underdeliver. That created a very, very, very bad taste in people's mouth. And CPU launch was delayed. So now be mindful. If you did not remember, this was the exact same time where Intel was catching on fire. And actually, Intel was catching fire 2 years ago. It was just now enough of CPUs have been written that it has become big enough tsunami where they could not stop it or ignore it. They were trying to ignore it so they can just like slide into something else. No. So at that time, delaying it is like, that feels weird. But again, people were like, out of abundance of caution. That's from AMD. It's like, we are taking extra caution. But realistic reality was that they may have gotten tricked by a silicon lottery. That some silicon in some, grand universe would have given this, but majority would never give that. So something like that. Something big happened, because again, recall of this caliber is not cheap. So that delay happened. That created some press X to doubt kind of scenario. And people got it. In the early testing, it was bad compared to AMD 7000. Not this, it was bad compared to AMD 7000. And again, people who did Linux testing, they did not have that issue. The problem was Microsoft's basically OS prediction was fighting with the AMD's prediction. That's the best explanation I got out of it. Basically, there were two predictive algorithms. They were not shadowing each other properly, so it was backfiring. So new update has been released, 23H2. If you get it, this should in principle improve the performance. Now what about the people who got them? That's why I'm making this after so many months, is that people who got it after the updates and all that, it's now 2 to 3% more than basically AMD 7000. Inherently it's basically refined 7000. It does not have this. This is too much promise and zero delivery. So that happened, and without Windows update, do not even expect that. So there was a significant debacle, let that be very clear. It was not like a minor oops. It was like, dude, what the hell you promised and what the hell you delivered. So what about the performance? Well, SimpliSim update is like same as 7000. Like, do not even think like you have 7000, don't even look at it. Like, don't even look at it. If you have 5000, okay, that's a good jump, but do not look into it from like, 7000 to this. It's not a jump. The jump that they were claiming, it's not there. And update boost, like once you update the OS, once people have been practicing with Linux and all that, the best scenario is 3%. It's not high. Like some people have gotten in some edge cases some performance, but it's not there. Like it's not black and white as it was during AMD 5000. Ryzen 5000 was like, whoa. We were like, whoa. This is not whoa. This is like, you are looking with a binocular, it's like, what the hell is happening? So do not expect power, like basically performance difference. However, there is a big change in power draw, like fundamental changes. Now, is that a big deal for consumer? No. Is that a big deal for some people? Absolutely. For few applications, it's short of take money. Like this is not an insignificant thing which they did, but you have to be mindful it's not suited for the market. And again, they did not talk about that. If they had talked about it, we made the same processor, we polished the hell out of it, we made sure this puppy is efficient as AF. They did not do that. They were like, what if we had this? And what if we had 40% performance boost? It's like, what the hell are you smoking? So there is a very serious performance gain, performance per watt wise, but nothing more than that. So AMD benchmark was very sus, and it killed the momentum in sales. This was the sales graph they were showing, like Handbrake 41%, Blender 16%, 11%, 9%, and like, games are like Borderlands 3, 4%, 22%, Horizon Zero Dawn 22%. Yeah, this is from PUBG Bands, and this, I'm pretty sure this is before the Windows update was done. In all scenario, AMD Ryzen 9 7900X is above than Ryzen 9 9900X. It was always like that in the early days. Basically, 7000 is better. So somehow something bad happened, or my best guess is server people started to make a consumer CPU. So performance is not there. Like, it's not a bad thing. Like, let's say you are jumping from 5000 to this, it's not a bad deal, but like jumping from 7 to this is just futile. So should you buy or skip? Well, from 7000, give it a pass. Like if you have 7000, like I do not even think about it. Like you are not missing anything. Like don't even think about it. Don't even look at it. And if you have AM5, which again, if you have 7000, you have AM5, it will be supported for like, 2028. So you can relax. You can take a chill pill and you're like, oh, this was like 7000 is, and then 10,000, 9,000 is not that great. What will we do? No, wait for 11,000. So you have time. Do not worry about it. You can let it pass, no issue. Now, for whom this is a significant, this is a significant upgrade for Dell people, HP people, Lenovo people. Those people would be buying this in a truckload. So why? Because again, this is productivity and power draw. Now, what does that matter? That simply matter if they are selling like Dell, HP, Lenovo, OEMs basically, if they are selling hundreds of units, they're selling it to offices. Now, imagine an office which has 100 boxes. Each boxes is consuming 10% less power. Does that matter in a single household? No. In office, absolutely. And it's a double whammy. So not only you have 10% less power draw from computer, so your electric bill goes down, your AC is also much more relaxed. Now it has 10% less load. So your efficiency goes double up. That's why people in office, people in those sort of ecosystem, and people who are running servers, they are so hell-bent on performance per watt. So basically their core focus is, I give you 1 unit of electricity, 1 kilowatt hour. What can you do in that? They're not that much focused on like what is the clock and this and all that. Of course, they want security and they want uptime. But what after that? Like once you have these two base logics, what do you need? They need how much crunching you can do on 1 unit of electricity. AMD is making really good progress. That's why I said like it's not a bad thing. It's just that if you are talking about these things in a server ecosystem, people are like, shut up, take money. You're talking about this in a consumer market, is like, is there a point to it? So Flatter, it's great for mass office, and again for even for home server. Like there are people who are trying to make actual home servers which are same level as like boxes that you can buy, NAS boxes like Synology and all that. For that you do need to save every single watt of power, and again having a processor that consumes less power, so that's a very good thing. And it's a good upgrade from AM4 series. So if you have AM4 socket and you're like, but now it's coming too old, now I want to upgrade, it's a good jump. You're going to go from DDR4 to DDR5, you're going to go from PCI 4.0 to PCI 5.0, and many of the AM4 did not had integrated graphics, so that will also be a big jump. So for those sort of point, it's a good jump. So if you are coming from very older days like AMD 5000 or 3000, jumping from 3000 to 9000, it's like whoa. And again, you also get that energy whoa. So you may not even need to upgrade your power supply. So there is a significant benefit there. But other than that, like jumping from 7 to 9, it's like, is there a point? Like again, server people, shut up, take money. For you and I, it's like, what's the point? Again, even for OEM, awesome, shut up, take money. But for us, it's like, what's the point? So if you are from 5,000, you can look into this. If you are from 7,000, ignore. However, even that being said, there is a very good advantage of competition. Having a great power efficiency boost in x86 makes x86 competitive to ARM. ARM is a very big threat to x86, and you never want one puppy to be dominant. That becomes a price stupidity. You do not want price stupidity. So how do you keep price under check? You have competition. How do you have competition? Because again, few years ago, everybody almost has given up on x86, where they're like, okay, x86 is for performance, but everybody else has to use to ARM because again, we want energy efficiency. However, Zen changes starting to pay off. Zen was a new pipeline they developed, and I'm pretty sure in somewhere in middleware they decided to really focus on energy efficiency, and it is paying off, paying dividend at this point in time, and it's a very big. So gap between AMD 9000 versus ARM CPUs that is made by Snapdragon for Windows, or ARM CPUs made by Apple, that gap is no longer like this, it's this. The gap is very close, and the claims that is coming from Intel side is that they have been also working in the background. Nothing has been working so far, but they finally, all their labor of from 5 to 6 years is now finally yielding a product that if it works the way expected, that puppy should beat M3 SoC in terms of energy efficiency. So that is a very good development. We should be very happy about this. Even if it's energy efficiency, that's a big upgrade. And the fact that we are getting inching closer to ARM, that's a really good thing. And on top of that, while on a laptop, while on desktop, most people do not care. In laptop, everybody cares. So having a better laptop experience, that's like GG. And Microsoft really need good laptop experience. So we are going to get that. And this also applies on Intel. I'm pretty sure because of the success that AMD has been experiencing in the energy efficiency market, be mindful, servers, very heavy running cost also goes directly proportional to the energy cost. Again, energy is double whammy. So not only you have to pay bonkers amount of money for the electricity you're consuming, you have to pay same amount of money to run the air condition. Or if you have like water chillers, water, fresh water, which is expensive. So you want less heat generation. How do you do less? Do more work per unit of electricity. So that is a very good thing. So Intel is also focusing on that, which means next CPU will not be stupid like this. So if you have i9 14900KS and you just like go YOLO on it, basically you put a big ass cooler that you can put on it, and you unlock the best motherboard you can have, biggest power supply you have, this puppy will drain 327 watts. To give you a context, if you have 9700 right, 9700X Ryzen series CPUs, that puppy is 88 watt. Now you're like, okay, performance gap is there. It's not that much. Basically, performance is 50% better at 2.5x the power draw. It's no longer a competition, it's a slaughtering. So AMD is like, yeah, put 2 of us. In a server, put 4 of us. We can bitch slap this puppy. So this is a very significant leap. Even if you're like, okay, what if I do not let it go, lock it? That's 253 watts. And again, that's why a system integrator will also benefit from AMD. Where they're like, even if they're like, you know what, we do not need to get into, let's say, 7,000. We can deal with 7,000, no longer need to jump to 9,000. They will still benefit from it. The PSU you have has a limited power draw. If you can divert the power, basically save 30 watts, 50 watts of power from it, you can divert that on SSDs, you can divert that on hard drives, you can divert that on GPU. So there is a significant benefit on the same power supply if your CPU is like, me chill. So this is magnificent. This is what we want. We want a world like, I'm old enough where basically I saw like, tiny coolers. So like, whoa, coolers were not a big deal back then. Then cooler became a big deal. Then big coolers, air coolers. Then we have liquid coolers. I'm like, now we have a freaking refrigerator in there. So that's not a sustainable approach. Heck, I'm running my right now everything is running on solar, so I do not even have the luxury where it's like consume as much power as you want. It's like, brah, solar plates are expensive. So this sort of progress where we are like, how about this sort of performance with this amount of power? That's a good thing. Everybody should be happy about that. Again, the only reason why everybody is mad at AMD is simply because of over promising and under delivering. If they were like, we have made some improvement, polished it in AI, Hulululu and Jingalala, and then they're like, okay, we have finally made it so efficient and all that. That was also, we can directly compete with the ARM. People are like, I got it. People like calm, but they won't be disappointed because you said 46% improvement. Now people are disappointed. Now people are angry. So now there is a probability that after 2-3 updates from Microsoft side, they may actually start to go 3 to 5% or maybe 7% more performance. But even Linux people who are not getting that kind of oomph, so my hopes are low. So it's a good thing, and we are very happy for the competition. And again, this also helps. The newses are that AMD is not moving boxes as they were moving with 7000 and let alone 5000. 5000 was flying. 5000 was flying, 7000 like, okay, 9000 is like nobody's buying it. That's a good thing. That means the next generation they will not have price hike. If all three were like hit out of the park, they will keep increasing the price. So it's a very good thing. In all scenarios, this is a good progress. It's just marketing mess up, so to say. So this was my presentation on AMD 9000. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst a friend. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.